Let's talk about everybody's favorite category when it comes to the 7 basic categories. And that, of course, is vehicle maintenance. Okay, might not be your most favorite one, but it is a very important one. If you know anything about safety, you know that there's 7 different categories that the FMCSA uses to judge and grade carriers. That's the best way to describe it, really. But one of those categories is vehicle maintenance. Okay, and vehicle maintenance is basically how well is your equipment equipped for the road? Is there any deficiencies with the equipment? Should your equipment even be out on the road? And I know there's a lot of jokes out there about the roads aren't built for our equipment. You know, the roads themselves aren't great, but we're not going to get into that right now. There are a couple obvious issues when it comes to vehicle maintenance, some violations that I see a ton of out there. I look at probably thousands of inspections and there's a lot of different kind of violations in vehicle maintenance, but there are some really easy ones. And the thing is, a lot of these can be avoided. And I'll get into that in a second on how to do it. But the vehicle maintenance category, it's usually vehicle maintenance is one of the higher categories with a lot more violations. But some of the big violations that I see out there when it comes to vehicle maintenance is bad tires, okay? Bad lights, lights that don't work, bad brakes. That could be a little more difficult to spot. But those are kind of the big 3. Now, there's also load securement falls under the vehicle maintenance thing. So if you're a flatbed hauler or anything like that, if your load is not secure, that will fall under the vehicle maintenance category. When it comes to vehicle maintenance stuff, typically, if you get a violation with that, you're going to get put out of service. Because the FMCSA, the DOT officers are saying, hey, this truck is not, or trailer, this equipment should not be out on the road. And we're not going to let it go back out on the road until it's fixed. So a big piece with vehicle maintenance is, yes, you get the violation, but then you also now have to pay to have a roadside service come out to you. And that can get into the thousands of dollars, okay? If you take care of your vehicle maintenance and you're watching for and you're doing a good job with your vehicle maintenance, you can expect fewer roadside delays. You can expect to not have as many repair bills out there on the road. So how exactly can you mitigate the vehicle maintenance issues? The one big thing, doing a proper pre-trip inspection, okay? Doing a good pre-trip inspection. There's been a lot of times where drivers will ask, well, how long do I have to do a pre-trip inspection? And my answer always was, until it's done, okay? Until you feel comfortable driving that piece of equipment. If you want to avoid a lot of the headaches that come with vehicle maintenance issues, do a proper pre-trip inspection. Make sure that the drivers are doing one. Make sure that someone is in the office monitoring to make sure that the drivers are submitting pre-trip inspections. A lot of that stuff can be done through the ELD provider now. And you can look through every day and say, look, yep, he did it this day, did it this day. Yep, great. No deficiencies. That way, you know that the driver is paying attention to the equipment out there. And it also helps that if a driver does get picked up for a violation when it comes to vehicle maintenance, you can go back and say, hey, you said this truck and trailer was ready to go. What happened? It kind of gives you that starting point to maybe help correct the driver or teach them maybe they're missing something that you can go back through and take a look. So make sure you're doing a proper pre-trip inspection. The other big thing that you can do to help your vehicle maintenance category, scores, whatever, is make sure that you have a good preventative maintenance schedule. Okay, this sometimes gets often overlooked, especially if you don't have an on-site shop. But these vehicles should be looked at by a proper technician between 25 to 35,000 miles. Some can go a little bit higher, some maybe not as much, but typically 25,000 to 35,000 miles, you should have preventative maintenance schedule done to it. Change the oil, make sure all the lights are working, check all the fluids, check the brakes, all that kind of stuff. Even as simple as checking the markings on it, making sure that the DOT number hasn't come off, the truck numbers haven't come off. And then keep a record of all this, okay? You should have a file, either a physical file or a digital file, on all the repairs and all the updates that have been done to each individual truck and trailer. That will come in handy quite a bit because there will be times when you're going to have a blown tire out there and you go, I feel like we just replaced that tire. And if you keep a detailed vehicle maintenance file, you can go back and say, oh yeah, 5 months ago we just replaced that. What happened? Okay. Or you could say, oh man, we haven't replaced that in years. Maybe it was coming time due. So always have a good record system too, because also if you ever do get into an issue with the FMCSA, you get an audit, you get an investigation, something like that, they're going to want to see those files. Okay. So make sure that you have a good file system that you can pull up all the records that has happened to that truck and trailer. And finally, when it comes to having a good vehicle maintenance program, make sure that you have a good line of communication with the drivers. Okay, make sure that they are encouraged to communicate openly with you, to not punish them if they bring up issues. Make sure that they can come to you and say, look, this is a problem, we need to get it fixed. Okay, a lot of drivers know a lot about these trucks. They know what they're looking at out there. And if they say, hey, look, this isn't safe, this isn't right, we need to fix this, you need to learn to trust them, okay? Have that open communication, or at least say, look, I get your concern, we're not quite yet, we're not quite to the violation zone yet, we can get it back to the shop. Okay, that's for you guys to kind of figure out how you want to handle that. But make sure that you have a good open line of communication between the drivers and either the repair people or the dispatchers or whoever is talking to them. They need to make sure that they can come to you openly and say, this is wrong, this needs to get fixed. Okay. When it comes to a vehicle maintenance program, make sure that you are paying attention to it. Okay. Again, vehicle maintenance is usually one of the higher categories I see when it comes to violations, and a lot of it can be done if you have drivers that are doing proper pre-trips. Okay, and even post trips, going over the truck and trailer after the day is done, just to make sure nothing happened during the day. Make sure that you have a good preventative maintenance schedule, that these trucks are getting looked at by certified mechanics often, and then make sure that you're keeping records, all right, of everything that's going on with that truck and trailer. If you have a good vehicle maintenance program, you can avoid a lot of headaches, you can save a lot of time, and you can save a lot of money.